Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we can be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. And welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zhu and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm up right above your state, Sean. I'm in Asheville for work this week. Heading back to Chicago tomorrow, but can't complain, man. 65 degrees, pretty sunny. Drove with the windows
It's
down.
nice.
I'll take it. 30 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds in Chicago, man. So, but I think it's getting a little bit nicer, so hopefully I'll come back to better weather. But, man, we've had a hell of a tournament to enjoy this past weekend, and I got a lot more coming up.
For sure. It's been a while since I've been watching this much college basketball at once, but it's been a pleasure to watch some more sports on a nonstop basis. That's what it is, a nonstop basis. Every minute there's a game. No late it is. It doesn't matter. There's some great games, some endings I'm kind of pissed about I want to dive into, but there's some great games. There's some great games out there, but the big dogs are getting it done. That's what we've been saying. The big dogs are taking care of business. Like, it's probably the least amount of Cinderellas I've seen the last couple of years for sure. So, yeah, majority of the big dogs are taking care of business.
Yeah, I kind of thought at the beginning of the tournament, I was like, because of the transfer portal, which college season is actually, I think yesterday or today was the first day of the transfer portal. I thought maybe we would have more Cinderellas and upsets because there's more spread of talent. But one thing I kind of forgot about, which is a big deal, is a lot of these teams that have the Cinderellas and they have their star players. Like, for instance, I want to say it's Drake. I think it was Drake had a guy that averaged like 19 points a game, and he's now in the portal. Those guys go to the big dogs. So I don't know if it's more so the Cinderella teams are going to be able to retain their players. I think there's probably going to be more of a trend where the main power four teams are going to be able to keep their players and retain them. And we might see more tournaments like this in the future with a lot of the big dogs going through in advance. And so with the first 2 weeks, people, what were some of the things you saw and things that you were interested in?
Man, I thought that's a great point. I didn't even think about that with like the whole kind of shift from like the Loyolas, right, that we've seen. You know, even like a school like NC State, I guess maybe you could comp them to like Arkansas, but they have a bit more of a program and a tougher conference than NC State did. But I think we'll see kind of it's probably going to be like 2-year cycles, right, where you get younger players from really small colleges that bring their schools, and there's just going to be kind of a wave in and out. So yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, man, it's been interesting to watch. I mean, we got all 4 number 1 seeds. I feel like we haven't seen that in a long time. I mean, looking at the East right now, you actually have the 1, 2, 3, 4 with Houston, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Purdue. I mean, to be honest, Purdue's actually a team I'm a little surprised is there. I know a lot of people were on High Point. That was one of the big upsets people were picking. They gave them a pretty good run for their money, but came up a little bit short. I've been super impressed with BYU, especially how they almost choked that game against Wisconsin. And they somehow pulled it out in the end, but that shocked me a little bit. I don't know if I'm confident taking BYU against Bama, though. So that one's not too much. But, I think – Wisconsin was a team I thought was going to do a lot better. We got to talk about this Tanjay guy, man. Putting up he was putting up unbelievable numbers. I was surprised they didn't go a little bit further. But, man, I guess the team I really wanted to focus on was Michigan. I mentioned it to you guys pre-production. They're big men, Vlad Golden, man, and then you got Danny Wolf. I really like Trey Donaldson as well. I think that's a Charles Barkley friend, one of Chuck's friends from surprisingly, he was at Auburn, and he actually went to Michigan, kind of the opposite of the transfer portal.
He was a two-way player, too. He was a real big football athlete. Chose basketball.
Huge. Maybe that's why Bruce Pearl was like, man, we need to run basketball full-time. But, I mean, I just think this Michigan team, they can give Auburn a run for their money down, especially in the front court. I mean, Broom's going to do his thing. He's a National Player of the Year candidate for a reason. But if there's one number 1 seed, I know I focused a little bit on Houston last week. Auburn, I don't know, man. I just don't know about Auburn. I think of all the number 1 seeds, they scare me the most. Duke is solidified as a number 1 seed. They are easily
obliterating. Absolutely obliterating.
They might be on the UConn level of last year too, but I just think there was a bit more talent at that 1B, 1C level that we were still considering compared to like what UConn had to go up against.
I don't know about that, because if you look on paper, they have projected 3 potential first round picks as their 3 best players.
And surprisingly, Zoo, their point guard.
Oh, he's shooting the lights out.
He's a second round pick. He might move up.
He's
Proctor,
shooting, he's shooting really well.
He's in his zone.
And Zoo, that's what they want to see in the NBA. So he could shoot up to, maybe a cusp second rounder, even a potential, a good team that needs a deep 3-point shooting guard.
He's shooting.
There you go. So Duke's impressed me. The other one is Ole Miss, man. I mean, I guess they're kind of the Cinderella. I mean, you want to throw – I mentioned Arkansas already a little bit. But these SEC teams, I think that you can't count them as Cinderellas because they played such good competition throughout the year that they're a bit more battle-tested than usually the other Cinderellas that we've seen. Florida and Maryland, man, that Sweet 16 match both gave me a huge scare. As you guys know, I think I told you guys I have a little long-term bet on Maryland, and unfortunately my other long-term bet before the tournament was on Florida, and they got to play each other. But hey, I at least got one outcome that's still going to be alive, preferably Florida. I just got to shout out Will Clayton, man. He was an absolute dog going against a team that is way more experienced. Even some of those guys had been on the 2 previous championship teams at UConn, and they got a chance at a 3rd tournament, but they were able to somehow put him away in the end. I was sweating like probably more than Zoo was with the Bama game a little bit. But Maryland, man, I mean, a lot of people were talking about Patrick Queen's travel, and that was a gather stuff. Come on, man, know your game. That was a beautiful game winner.
People love to just call out the travel. I hate that about it. Any social media, they love to call out the
game, man. I got a little beef, but it's all personal bias.
It's all engagement. It's just engagement. They want to get engagement on their posts and all that. But yeah, man. I mean, I think this it's kind of as to be expected, right? I think that's kind of how this tournament is playing out. A couple teams that got hot. I'd say BYU. I know we're going to talk about the Sweet 16 more in depth, but yeah, the SEC has been impressive, man. 50% made it all the way to the Sweet 16. The Big Ten coming second, and then you got the Big 12. And Sean, you made this point last week. The ACC is dying, and the fact that Duke is the only one there is very telling of that.
Absolutely, like that conference is just one team.
Yep.
And the thing is, it is the team. That's the thing. They might have had an easy schedule, but on paper, that team is because that Baylor team ain't no joke.
No,
ain't no joke. It wasn't like a joke of a pick. Like they got a pro project Edgecombe. That's a potential top 10 pick right there, and they completely annihilated them like a 14th seed pretty much. So like it wasn't much of a competition. So they haven't really been tested yet. Like I said, they won't be tested, and they'll play in Alabama. But so like not gonna lie, as an Alabama futures holder, very very nervous for this Duke team because if Duke is just playing in a B game, they should win. They're the better team. They're the better team. Alabama's more of a launcher, but this Duke team's been extremely impressive. But I got to shout out a team that took an L, but I was hoping they have a little upset. The Gonzaga Bulldogs.
Me too, man.
They played Houston tough, absolutely tough. Like you see this guy shot Nembhard out there. You got 10 points, 11 assists. The brother of Andrew Nembhard was on the Indiana Pacers, who also was a former Gonzaga Bulldog. Like they played their hearts out. They shot 50% from the field, 45% from 3. Like this team was playing at an A level. But shout out to Houston. They got it done. I got to shout out this Cryer guy. He senior guard. He really showed up with 30 points. Like this guy hit 8 for 8 on this free throw. You know me in the tournament. I need guys that can hit clutch free throws, especially with the 1-and-1 situation. When you break that first free throw, it's just the other team's ball. So shout outs to them for hitting their free throw, especially that Cryer guy. Because Houston, for me, this is the number one seed I don't have in my Final Four. Everything else is kind of chalk for me. But this is the one team I'm kind of rooting for the Houston getting upset by Gonzaga. They were a really, really good team coming into this tournament. I thought it was underseeded, especially in that first game. They showed why, like that Georgia game wasn't even a game. Like 89-68, it was not even a close game. Absolutely not. Like for an 8-9 game, you imagine that game be just a little more closer. But that game was a completely misclass because I think they misjudged the seeding. I remember we was talking about that last week, that it was just a misjudge on seeding. So for me, the Gonzaga Bulldogs put up a good effort, but shout out to Houston for getting it done. And I I'm a little personal bias in the teams I watched. I fisted in. Oh, that Alabama team. I don't know, man. The more I watch this team, Mark Sears an absolute stud. Like this, they got the closer, they got the mini guard, but the other pieces on the defensive side, the rebounding sometimes looking a little weak. Imagine when they play against a team like Duke, which is just big, long, and tall. Like thank God for Grant Nelson miraculously coming back in that game in the second half, because without him, they don't really have much size and rebound. They have one other guy, but they're going to get mixed matched against a team like Duke, where they got multiple 6'10", 6'11" dudes, where they could just out rebound him with sheer size. And their best player, Mark Sears, is extremely small. Like if they double team him, like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to force the ball out of Mark Sears and make someone else try to make a play. So I think this Bama's team is pretty predictable in offense. This is Mark Sears creating everything, even though he's a terrific player. And every time I see him drive down lane, he's got that physicality in him, and he pretty much got them that victory in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So for me personally, I was not that too impressed with Alabama as a potential national championship team. Like I was not that impressed. I'm not worried about the next matchup against Duke. They need to play an A+ game. Duke needs to play like a B- type game for them to get an upset, because I think it's a different category of teams that I'm seeing in the 1 and 2. Even though it's 1 and 2, it feels more like a 1 and 3, a 1 and 4, like talent level. So for me, right now, the prohibitive favorite Duke, like Vegas knew, the public knew, like the public and Vegas are aligned completely, and they deserve that, because Florida, and like you were saying, that Clayton need to bail them out with some step back threes and like some NBA moves. So if he didn't make those shots, like UConn might have pulled another run out of their butts as an AC. So Florida, for me, that was a team in the beginning of the year, not that talented, and then they had to get their reputation, and mainly because of Clayton, because this guy, he's a pro. He's an absolute pro. Like if you don't take this guy in the second round, at least, like you get a mixed opportunity to get a combo guard off the bench to help your roster.
Absolutely.
NBA roster. So this guy's at least a second round pick in the NBA. So some curious teams out there. But for me personally, kept an eye on some teams. And the one upset I was rooting for was that Maryland. I'm not a big upset guy. For me, I just want to see the best teams play the best teams. I'm a little old fashioned. The cute Cinderella stories are cute, but I was rooting so hard for that Maryland loss because I'm in a survivor pool.
Ooh.
And 63% of the people that picked Maryland, I was like, oh my God. If Maryland lost, we would have been down to 4 survivor pool teams left. Because Michigan State got it done for me. And that guy hits that shot. I'm like, oh my God, that did not just happen. Especially after that 3-point shot. Because I don't know if you guys saw that live. That was a rainbow. That was a beauty. Beautiful. That was shot with confidence. I was like, nice. We got a little Cinderella story. And that was a great shot. Like an absolute beauty. Nothing lucky about that shot or play.
No.
Nothing lucky. And then the ISO, their best player, gets it done. I'm just shaking.
You know what that looked like, Zoo? It looked like the game winner that LeBron hit on the Raptors, man. Going left with the right off the bank. Yep.
Just not as graceful, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, not as graceful.
Not as graceful. I was like, oh, they're going ISO. Like, they're getting their best player the ball. I'm just like, of all the upsets to not happen, man, that Maryland one hurt a lot. Like, shout out to Queen for getting it done, because that was just all on him. Like, that was all on him. He had a terrific game, too. So
Colorado State was favored in their matchup as a 12 against Memphis. They were favored by the money line at pregame. They were minus money. They were minus 120 at that point. I mean, they were a good team, and I think a lot of people had – I was nervous for Maryland in that game because I thought that – I know we talked about Gonzaga being underseeded. I think Colorado State, if they're in a different conference – they're a higher seed.
I want to mention with that game being so close, 71. So that was a 50-50 game. Colorado State Rams shot 23% from the 3-point line.
Yep.
And it was a coin flip game.
What did the Terps shoot?
42%. So in that big of a 3-point discrepancy, I think they played better than Maryland. But obviously Maryland hit more threes and got the last shot to go in. But if you look at that, I'm just like, because they shot 47% from the field overall. Yep. Maryland was at 42%. So, and they had more assists, more dominated the glass. So I'm like, on paper, like Colorado State Rams, they were just so close. Like, I feel devastated for those fans. Man, these selfish reasons for my survivor pool reasons. But That game was heartbreaking at another level because, man, if they lost, man, it would have been barbecue chicken in the Survivor Pool League. Had Duke left, had Florida, all the good teams left loaded to make a run. But after that, it's going to be looking tough for the Survivor Pool.
I'm going to leave the St. John's to you, Sean. I don't know if you want to talk about that because I would rather watch Angel Reese attempt all those layups, man. I'm so sorry to say that, but it's just a fact.
St. John's was, like I said, when we talked about it last week, they are 2 to 3 years away, I think, from competing and being because they're I want to call them a blue blood, but in terms of basketball lore, people know who St. John's is and they know the head coach. I just think Rick Pitino, I mean, he didn't get helped out by, I'm forgetting the best player's name, but that guy picking I don't know, I want to say it's the worst time, but he picked a pretty tough
RJ Lewis.
Oh, RJ Lewis
to shoot what he shot. And
3 for 17.
That's just, now I ain't gonna lie, I don't agree with that because it's win or go home. So like you got to do something to try to get back into the game. So if he goes 3 for 24, he just go 3 for 24. But
I think his confidence was just shot.
Yeah, it was shot, and maybe he would have been throwing the offense off, shooting more shots, and they needed more players to get rhythm plays and maybe different shot situations for other guys so they can get back in the game. But it kind of also too, just looking at it off the hoof, it goes back to what the SEC has been in terms of being the quote unquote the best conference for getting all those teams. Arkansas, with them starting to get more healthy, they just got more dudes that can run, jump, can get stuff off the dribble. They just look way more athletic than St. John's. I don't want to call St. John's a cute story because they were good the entire year.
They were a cute story.
But it felt like it was when they played Arkansas. It was like, this looks like a cute story.
So cute. They just played good defense. Defense. That offense acts.
They didn't look competitive at all. Like they had, I think, one guy who was a freshman who could shoot. I feel like nobody else on the team could shoot. Now I don't even know who the guy's name was.
Listen to this stat. From 3-point line, guess what percentage they shot? 9%.
That is disgusting.
All right, how many did they take?
22. 2 for 22.
Ugh.
2 for 22. And from the field, 28%.
Okay, the funny thing is Arkansas played horribly too.
Yeah, they shot pretty much bad too. They shot 2 for 19 so they shot 11%. So they didn't shoot that much better. But
so St. John's, see the thing, I think that Pitino coach, and Sean, and then I'll let you dive back into it, is he's pretty much saying, look, I'm going to get this program to always play defense because no matter how crappy of an offensive game we play against good teams, we will still be in every single game.
Yeah.
And then I'll start, once I prove that we're a good program, I'll start adding the offensive guys to that just culture of playing defense. I think it's what he did at Louisville. It's exactly what he did at Louisville. But
Louisville too, why I believe they will be better in the future is if you look at a lot of their guards that they had a lot of name brand guards who were really, really good and who are playing in the league now. So I do believe he'll be able to get the guards to St. John's to where they'll be more confident in guys who can shoot. And like I said, now with the season they had, I think the transfer portal, they'll be able to attract some. Because another thing too with St. John's is like with a lot of the stuff that's going on with the house settlement of like they're going to basically have revenue sharing where it's going to be a section amount of money you're going to get for your program and you're going to have to distribute it to like football, basketball, whatever. Well, St. John's doesn't have football. So like they might be able to, depending on how much revenue they get, they could put I don't know what other secondary sports they have at the school, but they could put a majority of their money and not share it with a football team and attract some really good high school and transfer players. So we'll see how they do in the future. But yeah, this year was just not the year for them. Shooting like that, you're just not going to be able to. You don't deserve to win the game or it even be close. But the game, like I said, I was kind of focused on a lot was the Houston game against Zaga because I was more interested to see how they would match up because that was the one team for me in Gonzaga that I thought would give Houston a lot of trouble just because of their pedigree and their size. But man, I felt like at the beginning of the second half, I don't know who that Houston big man was, but he was like 6 for 6. He was going off. And I think that was what I guess you would say the determining factor was for Houston ended up pulling it out at the end. Because of course their guards are really good, but I think the key to them is going to be obviously their style of play in terms of being tenacious on defense. But if they can get anything out of those two big men that play for them, I think they're a dark horse because their guards are going to go. Their guard, like I said, I just love their styles with their guards. They were all making big shots. It kind of felt just guard play wise, like when I watched the Kentucky against Illinois game, like Kentucky, I wasn't really too aware of their guards, but like their guards were making crazy shots against Illinois. And I will be honest, I never really watched Illinois this year. I watched a little bit of Kentucky, like I watched them when they played Tennessee and stuff, but their guards weren't playing like how they're playing now. And I feel the same way about Houston's guards that I feel about Kentucky, that not only do they have good guards, their supplementary pieces, Kentucky looks good. Now, they're going to be playing. We're going to be talking about it, but Kentucky against Tennessee it's always different when you play somebody you played a bunch this year. So anything can go. But in terms of if they get through that, I would like to see how they match up with other teams, because Kentucky, how they were playing with Illinois, I just feel like they kept hitting shot after shot. Big guys were getting open shots. They were getting stuff into the lane. Just looked really good. Duke, the one thing I think I didn't really account for with them is just how massive they are at every position. Like, I don't think – like, the Proctor guy might be the shortest guy on their team. And he's like 6'5". Like, everybody else is like big wing positions and they're fluid, can move. Like, that's the thing that I watched in that Baylor game. It's like I was thinking because of Kneppel and Proctor, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to stay in front of VJ Edgecombe or Rob Wright. And to his credit, VJ Edgecombe is super explosive, but the thing is, even if you're getting past the guard defender, you're being met with Cooper Flagg or the 7'3" guy that looks like Mark Williams Jr., that guy at the rim. Like, you're not really getting you're not getting a lot of free releases and open shots at the rim. So that's the one thing I think I didn't really take in a factor of just defensively how hard it's going to be for teams to score on them. So right now, if you got Duke as the favorite, you're sitting pretty. I will say, though, they're going to have to exercise that Caleb Love demon, because they didn't have to play. They've exercised the RJ Davis demon and they put him to bed. But like I said, Caleb Love is not going to be scared when they play Arizona. I would still pick Duke in that game, but it wouldn't be surprised if it got funky, because Caleb Love's not going to be scared. But to your point, Duke is obviously looking like the favorite. Alabama, definitely the first two games didn't leave a lot to be desired. Sears is super, super impressive. But to your point, Zoo, if they end up having to play Duke, Duke's going to probably trap them. There's nobody else that's going to be able to do anything for Bama.
You mentioned the length, right? The length of the starting lineup. Tyrese Proctor is 6'6", and he's their point guard.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, that's their shortest guy in their starting lineup. Isn't that crazy?
It's NBA.
That's even big for the NBA. Like, for the NBA, they're like taller than normal. Because you got a guy in 7'2". Like, you got a 7'2" guy, you got 6'9" Cooper Flagg. Your wing guy is 6'7". They got NBA height, which is, I'm just like, oh, Marcus, serious, man. You're going to see so many double teams. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. I think the smallest little guy, he needs to fall an 100% against the Lakers. Because that's what's going to take if they play each other. Because it's going to take a miracle. I'm looking at this. I'm like, I've told you guys, the bracket for them was so messed up when they had to play Duke before they had an opportunity to make a Final Four team. Because last year, they were a Final Four team. I think on paper this year, they're probably as good as last year. So I think the same quality of team. But you get to play against a Duke before that. I'm just like, have mercy. Like, it's going to take a hellacious performance for him to get it.
He's going to have to get him in foul trouble.
Yeah, seriously.
Because that's only and that's the thing, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like with Duke, that doesn't happen. They usually get to the bonus first. They just do. Somehow, some way. So, like, that's the only method to – and that's why I think I was kind of trending towards Baylor in that game against Duke before the game happened, is because of their guards were attacking guards. And, like, you saw with Robert I think it's Wright. I don't know if I was
Robert Wright.
I think it's Robert Wright. But I was thinking, watching the game before that Baylor-Duke game, and couple highlights I've seen this season, him and VJ Edgecombe can attack the basket. So I was thinking they're going to be able to draw fouls. And the Wright kid, even though he's not as athletic, he's so good at angles and getting like and ones. I was like, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Duke. But the one thing you kind of got to remember is this is the tournament, and they will let you play a little bit. But if you're playing Duke, you're not going to get in the bonus before them. So unless he's just hot from three, or whoever's playing Duke at the time, unless
you got to be a perimeter team. You have to
kind of
because the paint is going to be too hard to score.
Yeah,
physicality,
and even if you have an elite big guy, it's just the length. It's just going to be kind of impossible to get. Yeah, he would have to. He's going to have to be heroic.
He needs to shoot it.
And he's streaky, so that's the problem.
That's the thing. You got to get hot from three. That's the only way to beat this dude.
Okay, hear me out here. and I don't know if we want to dive into a potential Sweet 16 matchups here, but we're talking about Duke, Arizona. I think we all side with Duke there, right? If there's a team that can keep up with Alabama scoring wise, it is BYU. BYU can rain from three.
They can shoot.
And you see what this over-under opened at? 175.5.
Oh, shoot.
175
That's
combined
wild.
teams. That's wild. If Duke gets BYU, let's say BYU knocks off Bama and BYU has to play Duke, that might be the only team that has an absolute chance of being in a game with Duke from start to finish. They'd have to play lights out, I get it. But they are built for that. Just 3-point shooting. Yeah. We're going to outscore you. And sure, you can play slow and play on the inside with Cooper Flag if you want to, but we're just going to come down and get a 3 or a try to every single time. I think that's a very interesting Sweet 16 to Elite 8 matchup, whichever way it goes. I think that quad is very interesting to watch. I don't know what you guys think about BYU.
BYU, I didn't think about that. They can shoot. Yeah. So if they got hot, but see, that's the thing that sucks about trying to figure out who can beat, because you're gonna have to play. Because if they just play B+, they're gonna beat everybody. I think they're gonna win it. Mm-hmm. Like you gotta it's got to be a combination of like Cooper gets in foul trouble early, you're shooting lights out, and then when Cooper comes back, he is taking too many shots because he doesn't have a rhythm, so it's not other guys can't shoot. It has to be, I think, a lot more factors, and really the factors have to be Duke doesn't play their A game, because it's just defensively. I think they're gonna always be in all of the games. Auburn might be the only team, and I don't know when they would meet them, maybe in the championship game or Final Four. That would be a chance because they played them earlier this year and they played Duke really, really well. Duke won, and I think that was at Duke. They played them pretty tough early in the season. Now, obviously, these are different players towards now and in March, but Auburn played them very well. But if you're just looking up and down the bracket, it's just really hard to envision a team. Like I said, Florida would probably be one, but like I said, it kind of oddly feels like it's Clayton or bust for them. I don't know a lot of the other guys. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, it might be Kentucky. Kentucky they looked so good in that Illinois game. Like everybody was hitting shots and tough shots. And it's still Kentucky. So they obviously don't have the NBA one and done, but they got a lot of talent on the team. They got a lot of guys. And the coach that was at BYU was the guy that's there now. And it's not surprising that BYU was doing it because I don't think he took everybody from BYU and he left them talent. So I think he's just a really good coach. Mark Pope, I think is his name. So that might be a situation. But I mean, I'm still until Houston gets beat out, I just want Houston in the Final Four. I just love their guards. Their guards. That Gonzaga, the Gonzaga game they played and the UConn Florida game were the two games of like, you got to kill those guys. Like UConn, even though I think Florida was like 8 or 9 points with like a minute to go, and UConn got it down to like 1. Like you got to kill Dan Hurley. You can't just beat him up. Same thing with Gonzaga, like their pedigree. Pedigree with Houston, like they thought it was sweet. Gonzaga was making that game really uncomfortable towards the end. Like that shows to me, again, we always talk about the guards. It's about the guards. So I like the guards on both of those teams, even though I like Houston I think I like 2 out of 3 of their guards. And with Florida, it's really Clayton or bust. But Clayton is so good that who knows, he could take over the tournament. And to your point, so he's an NBA guard. I don't know if he's first round, but he's a guy who can help you score in bunches. I don't know who his comp would be, but he's just kind of like a bunches guy. But I will say that, like, watching – go ahead.
No, I said I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good comp, but I can't come up with one.
You know what's funny? People – and I got destroyed when I said this in the group chat. But you know who Edgecombe reminds me of slightly?
Anthony Edwards?
Less refined.
Yeah.
Like how he moves, it looks like Edwards. He's just not as skilled yet.
It was the missed. It was the missed dunk.
Yeah, he's like that. I was like
that
looks a little freaky. He's just skinny and like narrow, and he can't shoot like Edwards. Edwards can shoot it.
Yeah, Edwards built like a linebacker.
I got a comp for Will Clayton, a less refined Kobe White. That's what I would say he is.
Kobe was I think he's still the all-time leading scorer in North Carolina, which is insane. I think he's still the all-time leading scorer.
He's cooking. I know this ain't an NBA podcast, but he's cooking lately.
Oh, yes. Player of the week. Back to back.
But yeah, man,
NBA draft on that guy Walter Clayton as a late first round pick, 30th pick. So
and I keep saying, bro,
bit of a Shabazz Napier in him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a little bit taller.
The guy who won the championship pretty much by himself.
He did.
That doesn't happen.
What? And I still like Pettiford. I would. He's probably gonna come back, but he's so bouncy. Like when he gets it, like when he's doing his crossover, step back to get separation for his like 3-point jump shot, he gets so much separation that he's able to get like a clean shot off, and he's got crazy float game. I think he's just going to be knocked because he's like probably 5'11", 150 or 6 foot 150, but he's got NBA game and he's bouncy. Like he's going to be the key. Everybody talks about Broom, and I know he's the guy from Morehead State that was really good, but Pettiford's going to be the reason why if they make a huge run, will be because he's playing very well because he's the X factor. I like him a lot.
I think
I don't know if he's going to declare, but he's a NBA guard, so he fits that criteria. Like everybody else though that's in the Sweet 16, that's the thing. Like, if you're looking down, like all of these guys, Texas Tech, I don't know too much about. Arkansas has guys that were highly ranked in high school. I don't know if they're NBA guards, but like DJ Wagner is a name. Boogie Flan is maybe like the best NBA guardish, but he's still like a 6'2" combo guard. But they're another scary team too because
he's projected top 10. He's projected Boogie.
Boogie?
Yeah,
wow.
top 10
I
pick.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
They just got him back too, wasn't he hurt?
Yeah, he was hurt for a little while. That's surprising.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. There's another guy, and he played admirable in that game. He's coming back, so it's hard to kind of see where he is. But they're another one where if they get that other guy they were talking about, you said she's their leading scorer. Watch out for them. Watch out for them because they're battle tested for sure.
I think
wouldn't that be something?
If they make it to next week.
Arkansas. I think that's an
it,
upset alert. Arkansas over Texas Tech because I don't really know much about Texas Tech either. So it's not one of those household names, and like they're obviously performing pretty well, but it's only a 5.5 point spread, so I don't think Vegas is that confident of them getting that victory. So 10 over 3 is possible.
We haven't talked about your Volunteers, Zoo. What do you think?
Not gonna lie, as you mentioned, I'm very impressed with Kentucky. I told you guys, like, I got my eye on Kentucky, and they're usually a program I always see on paper. Oh, they look nice. They look nice. They look nice. And then they flame out first round. I remember last first round flame out, second round flame out. But now they're taking care of business. No Calipari, no problem so far. And as a Tennessee guy that have them in the Final Four, I am nervous. I am really, really nervous because I like the guards on Kentucky better.
I agree.
I like the perimeter guys better. Obviously, Tennessee's all about the defense. Like my personality,
defense.
I know.
St.
My personality is more offense. Okay, offense gets it done. You need a dynamic offense to win an NCAA championship. Yeah. Defense, that's cute and all. You can have possessional defensive stances in the second half where you gotta have some timely stops. You don't have to stop them the whole game. Timely stops to get it done. So the Volunteers for me, this Kentucky team cares. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I agree.
The Kentucky team scares me because I think that's a 50-50 game. And for me personally, I think the Kentucky game is going to be harder than the potential Houston game.
Dude, Kentucky looked really good against Illinois. So that you're right. Like I think if they get past Tennessee, they might get Houston because it just looked like everybody on Kentucky was making 3-pointers where it was in the lane and ones. I was like, because I had that sound off when I was watching that game, and I just kept looking up and Kentucky was celebrating. I was like, they are smoking Illinois. Now I don't know if Illinois was just outmatched, and sometimes styles make fights, but it's just they looked really good all over. So that kind of goes to show me the formula that most teams are trying to take is like maybe they have 1 or 2 NBA guys, but the rest of them are really
They got a bunch of second rounders. That's a bunch
college
of
guys.
A bunch of tweener guys. And I gotta mention this: they're one of the few teams in the regular season that beat Duke. Duke only got 3 losses this year. It was the beginning of the year, but beating Duke is always like okay.
That's my Final Four matchup.
That's very impressive. You beat a Duke, especially in the beginning of the year where Duke was riding high.
And shout out Derek King too, because they I'm looking at their bracket like, if they beat Florida, which would be a tall task, but if they beat Florida, then you're looking at what Texas Tech or Arkansas. I don't know. I like Derek King he's a dude. Like I will be interested to see he'll go first round, but like what team takes him? That'll be the biggest. That'll probably be the storyline I'm looking forward to the most in NBA because like everybody looks at like he's a big guy, but like he ain't like Edie. He's got like he played at Montverde, and if you watch his high school highlights, he played on the same team as maybe Nimhard was there and whoever was at Montverde this year. And he's got a lot of wiggle to his game. He's kind of like not, a 7 foot, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a fluid 7-footer, like an Evan Mobley. He might be a little bit more stiffer than him, but he's got skill. Like when he gets it, he can score.
Yeah, he doesn't move like a big man.
No.
He moves more like a forward.
He's fluid.
Like he's a 6'10" guy, and he got an NBA body, 245, projected first round pick. So he got the physical attributes, and he's got a little more skill. Like he ain't one of those big men with no skill.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see just what he does. I know that shot he hit was insane. Your Roy Hibbert, that fucking molasses running around.
James Wiseman.
Nah. Yeah, that was James Wiseman is still one of the biggest mysteries, man. It's great of an athlete.
Golden State.
Golden State. That's probably what it. If you let's just say the last 10 years, that's the worst pick Golden State ever made in the last 10 years.
You know what the best?
That was so bad.
After Anthony Edwards workout, they're like, "Nah, we ain't taking you. Even if we had number 1, we ain't taking you."
Well, that's just dumb.
They finally made a dumb decision.
I love Steph, but come on, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's the Queen guy. It'll be interesting to see what they do against Florida. I think Florida might be able to do away with them, but I don't know. Maryland this year has been super consistent, and Queen is at least a different matchup. So I don't know. It's not about the big men though. They're definitely. I'm not saying they're going to win or get to a Final Four, but
like, will you be shocked if they beat Florida? Will you be shocked?
Would be shocking because he's that good of a player, but it would be shocking because I would think Clayton had a bad game. Because again, with Maryland, their best player is Queen. Like they, of course, and if there's a Maryland fan listening, he's like, "Oh, well, did you know about this guard that does?" I get it, but I'm talking about like the guy, like, and that it's telling that in the final seconds, your go-to option was the center.
The big man.
Yeah.
So that means he's the best player, and I don't know. That's why I don't know about the guard.
You don't really see that often. It's a perimeter game, especially in college basketball. They go to their best player as a forward or power forward.
This ain't Tyler Hansbrough UNC anymore, man. Come on.
That's hilarious. Tyler Hansbrough, what a freaking throwback. But yeah, so and it shows me that they trusted him. So hey, we'll see. Like I said, hopefully they don't have to play a game where it's that close against Florida. But honestly, to God, like out of all these Sweet 16 matchups, any of these teams winning outside of BYU, Alabama, and Arizona Duke would be surprising. Like I don't see none of the results would be shocked.
Pulls off the upset.
Yeah, that's shocking. Arizona, Duke, and BYU, Alabama. I'd be shocked to be BYU guy.
I wouldn't be shocked.
The rest of them, you wouldn't be shocked
if BYU beats Bama. No, Bama's defense is so bad that if they have an off shooting night, they're so vulnerable. It's not even funny.
Give me Mark Sears.
I just think it's just
if it's a close game, give me Sears. That guy is able to control the pace at the end of the game is elite.
Yeah,
elite closer.
Yeah, I just wouldn't.
But
be
to your
shocked.
point,
I shocked. I think that's just not Duke for sure. Duke for sure.
Yeah, that's
because Arizona. I don't know anybody. It's Caleb Love and
Purdue. To be honest, Purdue beating Houston would shock me.
Well, Purdue, I think it's hard to judge them because they played McNeese. Because like when McNeese beat Clemson, it's like, and that's again, none of the ACC
I don't know about
losing.
you guys. I did not see that happening at all.
I did. The ACC. If you watch Clemson's schedule this year, like I think a lot of people saw like they beat Duke and they beat a bunch of the top ACC teams, but it's like they beat them at home. And like if you watch the Duke game, they lost that game because Duke, like Cooper Flagg was about to beat Clemson. And he goes up for a shot, and his feet just came out from under. He slipped, and the floor was wet. And it was like Clemson won the game. It was a very close game. So it's like I didn't really think that was whatever. And then if you look at the other high quality, put it this way: South Carolina basketball for men's was horrid this year, and Carolina beat them at home. I was like, I'm out on Clemson. Like Carolina's basketball team this year was just not that good at all.
You're close to.
They had one NBA guy. That one NBA guy, Colin Murray-Burroughs, who's probably going to be a first-round pick, but like the rest of the guys were not good fits. And it was like when Clemson was struggling against Carolina, and even though it was early and everybody says teams change throughout the year, I was like, And they really wasn't going to get tested after that outside of Duke and UNC, and everybody was crowning UNC as a big win. It's like UNC wasn't that good this year, so you can't be running around beating your chest saying you beat UNC this year. It's like Duke was your only good win, and really you should have lost that game because Cooper fell. So I knew they were going to be out, and I don't know who else was in the tournament. UNC, they got smoked. Who else? Louisville was the one where I was like, I got prisoner of the moment, man. Classic. Watched the ACC championship game, saw them fighting Duke really tough till the end, and I was like, yeah, this was like a Final Four team. smoked by Creighton. They got smoked. Like that game was not competitive.
No,
like
it was
insane.
Dude, I watched that game and all I could think was you, man.
I was like, because I had them in 2 of my brackets going to the Elite 8 Final Four, and it's just done. I was like, and then of course I'm thinking, I was like, well, maybe Creighton. Nope, Creighton got beat how they were supposed to get beat in the second round. Same thing with McNeese. They had the manager running around thinking he's the bell of the ball, and then they get smoked in the second round by Purdue. So that's why it's like I don't know how to really look at Purdue. I don't know how good they are. So, but
they always have good. They always have big bodies.
I'm praying for an upset, man. Let's go. This is the only time as a Hoosier I'm rooting for the Purdue Boilermakers.
No, that's true.
There's a lot of people that picked Houston for that Final Four, so it will be a beautiful thing to watch,
including me,
to see that upset. It will be a beautiful thing to watch to see an upset.
That's true.
Because Houston would have to play who after that if they would have won that game?
Kentucky or Tennessee.
Yeah.
See, that's where I think it gets a little dicey for Houston if they meet either one of those two. Because Tennessee, maybe they probably want to prefer that, but yeah, I don't know.
Tennessee's big man is Okbaji or what's his name? I forget his name, but he's pretty good, but he's not a force, and I think he would have a hard time against Houston. Kentucky would be more interesting, I think, just because their guard play. That guard play alone would be a great Elite Eight matchup between Houston and Kentucky.
So one good thing
for Tennessee's all going to be on Lanier. Like his other guard is like I don't think he's that good.
Ziegler.
Yeah. That good. So
he's been he kind of reminds me of RJ Davis. He's been in college too long, and it's just like it's time to go.
Yeah, the brother's 5'9".
Yeah, Tiger Campbell.
The dude is 5'9", man. I'm sorry. Like he's as tall as me. Good luck.
And you never know when these guys are going to actually leave because it's like all this stupid 6-year, 7-year COVID senior stuff. You just don't know when these guys' eligibility run out.
Yep.
So it's just I don't know. I know RJ Davis is finally ran out, but Caleb Love's another one too. It's like he's been in college for like 5
years. 5 years.
It's insane. But yeah, man, I think all these Sweet 16 matchups are going to be good. I can't wait to watch them starting Thursday, so we can get forward to seeing who's actually going to be in the Elite Eight and advance to the Final Four. So you guys make sure you're locked and loaded for Tyson Talks _ on Instagram, Quantro Knows on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review there, and also give us a thumbs up on YouTube so we get your algorithms. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are out.